and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to put together this American style plaque, which is perfect for the 4th of July. I'm going to be using some foam board, and I'm just going to use a piece that is the size of my project, so any scrap piece of foam board or even cardboard will do. I'm going to use some fabrics. I've got here some bandanas that I'm going to use and some burlap. The fabric is of course of your choice. I've got a scrap piece of ribbon and a little bit more ribbon here that I want to incorporate in my design. I've also got some Americana decorations, so whatever you might have, you'll use that. We're going to be using a dowel stick, any width that you can cut easily. I'm also going to be using some string or jute, something to measure with, and something to cut our foam board. So I have here a little sharp craft knife. I've got scissors, a pencil to do some marking, and I'm actually going to use my wire cutters to cut the dowel stick. So these are supplies, including my hot glue gun and some hot glue. So let's get to crafting. I'm going to start off first by cutting out the foam board to the size that I want my plaque to be. Now I've got this burlap, and I like the width of this burlap, so I'm going to use that as my guide. So all I need to do is measure, and I've got here 12 inches. So the width of my plaque is going to be 12 inches. Now the length of my plaque will be according to what this space takes up here. So I'm going to put that right here. The burlap doesn't matter because that I have plenty of length. And I need this to be at least 18 inches long. So my plaque will be 18 by 12. Okay, so now I want to make sure that my fabric, it obviously has enough for the 12 inches. My fabric is over 18 inches, so I think I'm actually going to give my plaque another inch and go 19 or 20 inches in length actually. So let's go ahead and measure that out. First I'm going to mark out the 12 inches for my width. So I'm just going to make little tiny marks all the way across and then match them up and make one straight line. And this board is actually 20 inches going this way, so I'm going to use that length. Okay, so now all I have to do is just cut out my 12 inches. As a matter of fact, let me make another little dot right here and finish off my straight line. So now all I've got to do is just cut out. And don't worry if it's not super straight. Okay, so here's my 12 by 20 inch piece of foam board. Alright, so after cutting out my shape, I am now going to cover it with some fabric. And of course, like I said, this is going to be your choice. I have chosen to use this one, this checkered one, to cover the plaque, and then I will put burlap over it. This is completely optional. You don't have to do it like I am doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to take this fabric, turn it around. You might want to iron it first. And then I'm just going to hot glue this down, hot glue this and any little bit of the edges down. So kind of wrap this piece with this fabric, okay? All right, so I have covered my plaque with the first fabric. Now I want to cover it with some of this raffia. So I want to make sure that I cut enough length so I can fold the end of my raffia behind it. And then I'm also going to give it some length here and then double that plus extra to go behind, because I want a little bit of a casing for my dowel stick. Okay, so I am going to give it, I'm going to turn this around. This is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn it around first. And again, this is completely optional. Put some glue down. Get my burlap. I think I may have said raffia a moment ago. Put my burlap on there. Okay, so now that I've glued that little end behind, I'm going to come to the front, pull this over, and I'm just going to add a little bit here on the very edge. Pull the burlap nice and smoothly across and attach it here at the top. So then I'm going to go ahead and give it an inch and then another inch for my casing plus another inch for gluing it to the back. So I'm just going to go a little bit extra. So I essentially went almost basically 4 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this back around like this so you can see what you're doing, and then take your dowel stick and decide how long you want that to stick out on both sides. Maybe an inch or so on each side. So this gives me a stick that is just a little over 14 inches. So I'm going to go 15. Okay, so I've measured this 15 inches long. And now I can go ahead and take my wire cutters and just cut it. You can mark it with your pencil, pen, whatever you have to mark with, and just cut it. And this is the cut edge. So what I do is I just kind of press it onto my mat or my table like that. And if you want to do a little bit of sanding, you can sand that little edge down. But there we go. Now we have a nice little stick here. Now I don't want my stick to be sliding in and out. And you can also paint this if you want. It's an option. But I don't want it sliding out, so I'm going to add some glue right in here on the edge, top edge of the plaque that I created. And I'm going to just kind of stick it down a little bit on there. Okay? And then I can just flip this over. And as you can see, I have lots of slack here because I decided to do 1 inch and then another inch, and then I thought another inch to, you know, glue to the back here, but I actually went a lot. But that's okay because I have a lot of burlap. So now I know that I can go ahead and fold all this down. So I'm going to start by putting some glue right on the stick. And by the way, try to place your stick so that you have even amounts. I have a little bit more on one side, but I can just trim it with my wire cutters. Okay, so I'm gluing it down to the stick first, and then I can put some here. Okay. Use my scissors because it's hot glue. And then of course just trim off any bits that just don't want to cooperate. Okay. Okay, because I didn't center this correctly, but I do like the amount of stick that I have over here, I'm going to go ahead and trim off. So it's better to cut it a little bit longer than you think you're going to need, unless you are going to be very, very careful about when you place it, then you don't have to do what I'm doing. Just cut it to the size that you want. Okay, so this is our little plaque, and we want to be able to hang it, so I'm going to use my string, and I'm going to tie this around one end, make a loop, and then tie some more on the other end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, and I'm going to grab a nice maybe 6 inches of string and slack, and then just kind of get the glue and just wrap it around the glue a few times, and then a little bit of the slack that you have left over, tie it, and just make a knot. And then I would put a little bit of glue on the knot. There you go. And then we'll decide how much string we want coming up. And then we'll give it another about 6 inches or so. Always cut a little bit extra because you can always trim it off. Okay, so then we'll just do the same thing over here that I did over here. Alright, as you can see, I've got my plaque here completed with my little string. So now all I've got to do is decorate it. And this is where you're going to decorate it any way you want. I've got my star here. And I've got this cute little sign. And then, of course, I've got some extra fabric. And I've got some extra ribbons here. This is just a little scrap of ribbon. So I'm going to actually use this little scrap of ribbon right up at the top here. Like so. So I'm just going to hot glue that down and then just trim off the excess. Alright, so if you're wondering where I got my little sign and my star and actually my bandanas, I actually got these from Target, from their little dollar little area. When you first walk into the store, they have this one section there, and that is where I got these items from. Now, this has a cute little rope that it's hanging from, and I kind of want to use that in my design. And, well, this one, I'm going to go ahead and take the little rope that it has on it. And you can see here, this is only $1, and I believe the bandanas were also $1 each. The star was $3, in case you're curious. I'm going to put this right up at the top here. And let's take off this tag. I could just take the tag off, this little rope off actually. I kind of like it, but let me untie this because maybe I can find a different way to use this little rope. Okay. So now all I gotta do is just decide the placement of my items. I like that. And by the way, you can find lots of little plaques like this, you know, at your dollar stores. Create some if you can't find any. I'm just gonna hot glue this on there. So plenty of hot glue in the back. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing to my star, and I'm going to use this side where the little holes are made into my star. Use this for the top because I'm going to put a little bow here, and that'll cover that. So basically my hot glue will have to go right on the edge because otherwise it won't glue down. Now, because we're using foam board, I'm going to put this right here. Because we're using foam board, we could actually use something to poke little holes right through here and then put a wire through there to tie that down. So that's actually what I'm going to do. So I've gone ahead and I've already kind of marked it with my pencil or use something sharp to do that. And then you can just take, let me unglue this back. You can just take a little craft knife and cut out those little holes, which is what I'm going to do. And here's my markings. So I want to make sure that I cut through the fabric. There we go. And just make sure that you don't cut the holes where they end up cutting into each other. So I'm just going to turn this around. And as I can see right there, where the little markings for the holes are. And I'm just going to cut into my foam board here a little bit. It's not the neatest of jobs, but it's working. So for that purpose, you can take some more of this jute. Let's get a little nice long bit here, and I'm going to poke this through, and hopefully it'll poke through the other side, and I might have to reach between my raffia here to pull it through and make sure it gets through the fabric. So this is going to take me a little while. Let me use my pencil to help me poke it through. That actually helps. Okay, so now that I've got it through there, I'm going to poke it through the burlap. There's my little string right there. Let's put some glue back on our star. There. Actually, I probably should just glue that after I've tied it down. Okay, so that's going to be right there. Let's put the string through the hole. Okay, so you're finding out from my little mistakes here. Okay, so we're going to put it through the hole here. Make sure don't pull it all the way through. So now we're going to push it down through the hole, and then we're going to want to push it through the fabrics and into that other little hole and come out the other side and pull it through here. So I'm going to go ahead and struggle with that a little bit. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. The only problem is because I'm holding this way far away from me. It's kind of hard to do. So all I'm going to do is just reach under here, my metal star here, pull that little string. Try not to pull it too much because I don't want to pull the other end, and then just poke it through the hole like I did from the other side. Okay. Okay, so I pulled it through, and now I can go ahead and tie it. Probably the best thing to do is use some floral wire, a little bit of wire to do this, because then you don't have to worry about, the little soft edges and not being able to poke them through. But I was able to do it. It wasn't that hard of a task. It just seemed like it was. Okay, so now this will just hang like that, but you don't want it to move around. Just add a little bit of glue to the little edges here, and I'll just add a little bit on this one as well. There, just a little bit. And just make sure that everything is hanging nicely or placed nicely. Alright, so now I'm going to take this bandana, and I'm actually going to cut strips of fabric, and I'm going to leave it folded in half like that. I'm going to cut off this little edge. I probably should use my rotary cutters, but scissors will work just fine. Alright, so I'm going to cut off that little sewn edge, and then cut about 1-inch thick pieces, and then just cut off those little edges. I want it to get kind of frayed. Alright, so just cut as many strips as you want to cut. I think I have 3 here, and I think that'll be good enough. I also have this little bit of string that I took off the star, and I've got more jute, and then I've got this other ribbon. So basically all I'm going to do is just decorate my little plaque. I want some of this hanging off the sides here, and I may cut some more of these little strips just like that. And what you can do is just go on the inside of this string where you're hanging it and just tie it up. And if you want to knot it, you can, or just add a little bit of hot glue there so all that stays there. And just put as many of these as you want, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm actually going to do it to both sides. So I decided to take a little bit of this jute and a little bit of the thin ribbon and cut some long pieces of each for each side. And I'm tying it just like I did the piece of bandana strip. And I don't even have to make sure that it's centered when I put it on here. One end could be longer than the other. I think that looks really cute hanging off like that. Put as much as you want on the ends hanging like this. And so I'm going to take this one and some more of this ribbon, and I think I'm just going to use this string rather than using this one. So I'm going to take these pieces, put them together, cut the same lengths. And I'm actually going to create a bow, just a regular bow. Just like that. Make it however you want to make it. Okay. bring this loop a little bit less. Just a very kind of rough made bow, and then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fix this thicker piece of fabric a little bit, not too much. And then I can cut the little ends off, which is what I'm going to do. Just trim a little bit of whatever you need to trim. And I'm going to glue that right there, since I have a little piece of string there that'll allow me to glue something on there rather than on the cold metal, because as we know, metal doesn't really stick very well with a hot glue. So we're just going to do that. And that's the purpose why I tied it down to the board. Okay, so just going to put that right on there. Now, it's up to me if I want to add any more strings on the side here. Of course, up to you what you do to yours. All right, everyone, I have completed my American style plaque, which I'm going to be hanging for 4th of July. I can actually use it for like Memorial Day and also for like Veterans Day, just whatever occasion you want to do. It's very easy to create something like this from a scrap piece of foam board, and you can do it at any size that you want to do it, and just use any pieces of fabric, or if you want to use some paint to create something like this. And there you go. I think it came out really cute. I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up. And please leave a nice comment down below. Don't forget that I do have a Facebook page at Trisha's Creations that you can follow. And of course, you can comment on there if you wish to do so, or share any of your pictures of crafts or even recipes. I want to thank everybody who has been subscribing, and if you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button. That's the red button down below the video, and then after that you'll see a little bell, so go ahead and click on that too, and that'll notify you of when I load up videos, which is twice a week, and once in a while I add an extra vlog. Alright everyone, hope you did enjoy this. Please be kind to each other, respect each other, and as always, enjoy.